Okay, so now let's put everything together. Let's shoot a ball up at an angle off of a cliff and just solve for everything. Okay, so once again, we're shooting a ball up at 50 meters per second at a 30-degree angle off of a cliff that's 100 meters high, and we want to know, well, everything. How high is it going to go? How far is it going to go? How long will it take to get there? What is the velocity and the angle that it hits the ground? So let's go ahead and put together everything that we know so far. Okay, number one, the initial velocity equals 50 meters per second at 30 degrees. Okay, we know that Vx is going to be 50 times the cosine of 30 degrees, and we know that Vy initial is going to be 50 times the sine of 30 degrees. Why did I put Vy initial here? This is something new. It's because we're also going to put in Vy final. Now, what is Vy final? Well, Vy final squared equals Vy initial plus 2AD. Okay, D minus 100, A minus 9.8 meters per second squared, and Vy is what? Well, this is 43.4, and this is 25. So Vy initial is 25. Notice that we have a negative times a negative here. So let's go ahead and figure that out. Okay, so doing the math, Vy final squared equals Vy initial squared plus 2AD. We get 25 squared for Vy initial plus 2 times negative 9.8 times negative 100, because both gravity and our displacement is in a negative direction. And we're going to get 625 plus 1960. And if you take the square root of that, you get 50.84. Okay, so the first thing that we'll do is we'll find how long it takes the ball to get to the maximum height. In other words, right here. And how high is that off the ground? So the formula that we're going to use is that V final equals V initial plus acceleration times time. Now, if we rearrange this a little bit, we get V final minus VO over acceleration equals time. Well, V final at the top of the curve there, velocity is 0. So that's 0 minus the initial velocity, which is 25 meters per second, divided by the acceleration of gravity, 9.8, and that comes out to 2.55 seconds. Okay, that should be pretty familiar. Next, we want to figure out how high this is. So displacement in the y-axis, okay, is going to be velocity initial times time plus 1/2 acceleration times squared. Okay, well, we have all our numbers here. So dy equals 25 times 2.55 plus 1/2 times negative 9.8 times 2.55 squared. So let's go ahead and do the math for that. Okay, so plugging in the numbers, 25 is our initial y velocity, 2.55 seconds plus 1/2 times negative 9.8 for gravity times 2.55 squared, we get 63.75 and negative 31.86. Add those two together, and we get 31.89 meters. But we're not quite done because we start off at 100 meters. So this is going to be 131.89 meters. And that is our answer for the total height at the peak of the arc right here. So that's 131.89 meters. Okay, so how long is the total time of flight? Well, the total time of flight is going to be however long it takes to go up and then come all the way down. Okay, to figure out what the time is, we need to solve for t from this equation. V final equals V initial plus acceleration times time. So V final minus V initial over acceleration equals time. Now the final velocity, since we're going down, is going to be negative 50.85 minus 25 is going to equal 7.74 seconds. So our total time of flight is 7.74 seconds. Now solving for the total distance here is actually pretty straightforward. We just take the x component of velocity, which is 43.4 meters per second squared, or excuse me, 43.4 meters per second times 7.74 seconds. And that comes out to 335.9 meters. Well, the only thing that we have yet to figure out is what is the velocity and angle that the ball hits the ground. Well, this is Vx, this is Vy final, and that would be the magnitude of the velocity. So let's just go ahead and figure this out. V equals the square root of Vx squared plus Vy final squared. So V equals the square root of Vx, which is 43.4 squared, plus 50.85 squared. Well, did a little bit of math, and that turns out that final velocity is 66.85 meters per second squared. And at what angle? Well, let's see. This is the angle. There's the right triangle. So this is Vy final, and this is V. So the arc cosine of Vy final over V will equal our angle theta. So what do we have for that? Well, that works out to be about 40.48 degrees. Well, we went through that last example rather quickly, but that shouldn't be too challenging because we did everything step by step right up to it. Now, if you need to, go back over it a couple of times and see whether or not you came up with the results that I did. I'm not immune to making errors, and if I make one, I'd like to know about it. So, in the meantime, this is Bob the Science Guy. In our next episodes, we're going to have a look at the quadratic equation and maybe even touch on some higher level math. That's in preparation for doing free body diagrams and doing inclines and things like that. So until then, take care, drop me a sub, and I hope to see you again soon.